We have a two-parter here with Fire Lords. I don't know why I spent most of the weekend not wanting to review this, because it's good. And I have some stuff to say about it. This is John Ostrander writing. He wrote 2 issues before this, 2 fill-in issues. And with this, issue 58, he takes over writing the series full time. He does take the character in some dramatically different directions. But I think the first year of him on Firelords was straightforward, serviceable stories with Firelords without any elementals or Russians. The cover doesn't boast the masts, but this is actually a Legends tie-in. This story takes place during the final part of Legends, the DC crossover. I think it is more the case that John Ostrich, he was involved with Legends, and he made the choice to incorporate the relevant references into this, rather than it being explicitly planned as a Legends tie-in. John Ostrich's other 2 Firelord issues before this were official Legends tie-ins, and I have reviewed them. I will see how this 2-part fares with you lot before committing to more Firelords. Our bad guy in this is not that unusual. He is very commonly shared across DC titles. But what is a surprise is that this is his first appearance. This is his new origin. This is his reintroduction after Christmas on Infinite Earths. Our bad guy is gaining his powers here, exposure to toxic waste, standard stuff. And he is actually a miscoloured version of Parasite, the Superman enemy, Parasite. Since the Superman reboot after Christmas on Infinite Earths, Parasite hadn't been used, and so he is debuting afresh here in an issue of Firelords. That's weird, isn't it? I have my theory as to why, which I will get into when I do his history, but I also don't know why he is green. I really don't. He appears in this as green. He is briefly in Suicide Squad issue 1, where he is green. He appears again in Firelord and is green. He appears a few times across the series, and he is always green. He is in the last couple of issues, still green. He is even green in a guest appearance in Starman. Then, when he eventually does reappear in a Superman comic after this, he is purple again. I think this is it. Adventures of Superman 482. That is when he returns to the Superman books. This cover here is a homage to a cover I wanted to show in this video when I talk about Parasite and his history, but I couldn't find a high enough quality image of it. But this remake here is honestly pretty note for note. It seems pretty silly to insist on the fact that he is green for some reason before covering his history, but he is a pretty simple character, energy draining, leech type of bad guy. And his first target, his first fight, will be against Firelord's other love interest, Frankie Ray. She has powers, as you can see, but I'll talk about Frankie Ray in part 2. She is a bit more integral to part 2, although she definitely is important here as well. She is the superhero who responds to Parasite, Ganon on a rampage, but despite her best efforts, she only presents herself as an appetizer for Parasite. Parasite absorbs her energy and her powers. Parasite is similar to Rouge from The Excellent Men. He absorbs powers and memories. But Parasite, be he green or purple, is never as attractive as Rouge. Now here is Firelord, or rather one half of Firelord, Robbie Amell, with his original love interest, Ginger J. I do want to do a video properly talking about how Firelord is one of the most enormous rip-offs in comics history. But it is staggeringly unfair to do that in a video about John Ostrander's issues. John Ostrander had nothing to do with Firelord's creation. He just wrote the second half of Firelord's longest running series. Ginger, she throws a clock at Robbie, which is pretty funny to me. And the deal with Firelord is that he is two people combining to make a super-powered hero form. We have a young high school jock called Robbie Amell and a stuffy-eyed professor man called Jack Bristol. We have an odd couple pairing going on, like in the failed Matthew Perry sitcom, The Odd Couple. Remember that? When he tried to do a remake of The Odd Couple and it flopped. I really only mentioned it because I want to trash his memoir. Fucking horrendous. He moans non-stop about how tough his incredibly privileged life has been, and how his addiction is worse than everybody else's addictions could possibly be, and that nobody could possibly understand all the pain and tragedy that he has lived through. He won't shut up about how much money he has, how many cars and houses he owns, or how many beautiful women he has fucked. That is all they are in his writings. The women, other than his mother, they are defined only by being beautiful and by being fucked by Matthew Perry. He barely offers any insight into Friends or any of his projects. If you are wanting to learn the behind-the-scenes secrets of Second Chance, you won't be enlightened. Pun there, enlightened. You have to know that Second Chance was a show where Matthew Perry had a mentor figure who was a time-travelling guardian angel version of himself from the future who was sent by St. Peter to teach Matthew Perry to live a better life. It is a classic, corny 80s sitcom with a high concept and a theme song that explains every single part of the story. And amazingly, 6 or 7 episodes into the series, they completely drop the setup. The angels, St. Peter, the entire mentor figure character, they dropped it all without any mention again. Matthew Perry's book, though, it is a fucking awfully written book. And I am not gunning for the obvious criticisms people have had for it, like that he wishes death on Keanu Reeves, or that he comes across as a fucking creep when he talks about Jennifer Aniston. It is the second worst autobiography I have ever read, with the worst being a chapter at the back of my Nemesis's book, which there exists a 30-minute video of me reading aloud on my channel, but it is an Easter egg hidden away somewhere for you to find. There's a few videos hidden on my channel like that, only accessible through specific playlists or whatnot. I love it. It feels like a scavenger hunt. A scavenger hunt that nobody ever completes. So that is my bonus review of Matthew Perry's memoir. And I love this bit here because, although not said, it is clear that his girlfriend is thinking that Robbie Amell is sneaking off to have a gay romance affair with Jack Bristow. So here is Firelord, an incredibly powerful character, or a stupidly powerful character. Now, Firelord is a rip-off, but he has a good design, a good name, and the dynamic with Robbie and Jack is solid. These first few John Ostrich issues are great because you get to see someone else do this character. There is some foreshadowing on this page to a reveal in the next issue. Parasite, with Frankie Ray's powers, is gunning on another rampage, and I think it is depicted very well here. You really get a feel for how destructive Parasite is being. And so now we have Firelord fighting Parasite. And the video is getting closer and closer to the end. And I've still not told you of the history of Parasite and my theory for why he is here rather than in Superman. Parasite was created in 1966 by a 15-year-old Jimothy Shooter in Action and Comics 340. Parasite became a dependable B-list Superman bad guy after that. And here is where I would show the cover to Action and Comics 361. But I couldn't find a good enough picture of it. So here is that remake again. My idea as to why we didn't get Parasite reintroduced in Superman comics, Jason Bourne ate Timothy Shooter. He didn't want to use Parasect out of pettiness. He didn't want to use a character created by Timothy Shooter. Parasect does find his way back to the Superman books after Jason Bourne has departed. And as I said, he is purple again. Love this cover too, by the way. This one here. Great cover. That is my theory as to why we have Parasect in Firelord. It doesn't explain why he is green. The green makes him look too much like Marvel's radiation dudes, in my opinion. And with Parasect explained, we get our cliffhanger where he absorbs all of Firelord's energy and powers, causing them to split into their two very vulnerable human forms. Fantastic, suspenseful ending. What we have seen so far of Parasect gives us cause to actually worry about Robbie Amell and Jack Bristow, and concerned by the idea that he now has Firelord's power. I actually massively recommend this 2-part Parasect story. It still has some feeling of John Ostrich is doing a fill-in story, but there are some big character beats in part 2. And here we have the introduction or reintroduction of a pretty important villain. The art, I have not mentioned the art, but it's pretty average. It never dips below the line of not being sufficient. This comic, it's all good. 7 thumbs up. And this year's Golden Splat Award goes to Matthew Perry's memoir,